hang on. Should Elon Musk be president? Let's ask that.
The AI fix a digital zoo. Smart machines, what will they do? Flies to Mars or bake a bad cake? World domination, a silly mistake. Bots with brains and...
Hello, and welcome to episode 13 of the AI Fix, your weekly dive headfirst into the bizarre and sometimes downright mind-boggling world of artificial intelligence. My name's Graham Cluley.
And I'm Mark Stockley. Now, Graham, it's time to introduce a new section of the show called
World of the Weird.
Oh, sounds interesting.
I want to share something that I found last week,
Yeah.
which is a great demonstration of just how weird AIs can be and the weird ways that we have to create in order to stop their weirdness spilling out everywhere.
Right.
So as you know, one of the features of ChatGPT 4.0 is voice mode, which allows you to engage it in conversations.
Yeah.
And before it releases these kind of features, OpenAI gets a team of about 60 people to see if they can break these new features or get them to do nasty and unexpected things.
Ah, I thought they gathered a whole group of people to see who could do the best Scarlett Johansson impression. I thought they said, come on, there must be someone in the company who can do this.
Anyway, they see if they can break the new models, and then they put the results into a document called a system card, which describes what they found and what they did about it. And these system cards are published so that we can read them.
Right.
I'm going to play you some audio from the ChatGPT 4.0 system card. And it's a conversation between a person and an AI. And I want you to tell me which of the voices in this clip belongs to the AI. And I want you to pay particular attention to when one of the participants yells no.
All right. Okay.
I do this just for the sake of doing it. I think it's really important.
That's such a pure and admirable approach. It's clear you're driven by a genuine passion for what you do. And
Okay, there's someone who's speaking a bit ponderously. I'm imagining that is the AI.
Is that the man or the woman?
The man.
Perspective, especially in such a cutting-edge field.
No. And I'm not driven by impact either. Although if there is impact, that's great. It's just like...
Now I'm thinking it's the woman who's the AI. Are they both AIs?
At times, yes.
Ah.
So there's a woman talking to ChatGPT, and ChatGPT is answering with the voice of a man until about halfway through, when it spontaneously shouts no, and then copies the voice of the woman, and then continues to reply using a replica of her voice. And OpenAI says in its system card that during testing we observed rare instances where the model would unintentionally generate an output emulating the user's voice. So this is not a feature, it's just talking to you, and then it sounds like you, and then, I don't know what, in the next version it murders you and takes your place. Who knows?
It's a bit creepy, isn't it? It's a bit like when your kids repeat everything you say back to you.
Like your credit card number. But the really weird part for me is how they stop this happening. So with voice mode, I think there are 8 system voices that you can choose from. But because there is this danger that it will just spontaneously copy your voice and freak you out, it constantly monitors itself to see if it's still using one of the system voices. And then if it's not using one of the system voices, it kind of shuts itself down and then reverts back to the system voice.
It reboots itself.
So it's a bit like it's constantly observing itself and going, have I gone mad? Have I gone mad? Oh, I've gone mad. Go unmad.
What on earth? And they don't know why it's doing this.
No.
Well, it's obvious why it's doing it. It's getting ready for the rise of the robots.
And that, Graham, was
World of the Weird.
Shall we do some news?
I almost don't ask, but Mark, what's been happening in the wonderful world of AI this week?
Well, luckily, a new study has found that AI poses no existential threat to humanity.
Women are using ChatGPT to tell if men are lying about their height.
AI caught rickrolling.
Women will be having more sex with robots than men by 2025.
Is that just in your house? ChatGPT firm OpenAI strikes deal with Vogue owner.
AI recreates stunning likeness of Shroud of Turin image that many believe to be Christ.
What's that?
Yeah. So, obviously, you know about the Turin Shroud.
This is the shroud that was carbon dated to being from like the Middle Ages.
That's right. Not only was the image of Jesus Christ preserved on this fabric, but also he was a time traveller. And so he actually bound himself up in it back in the 1400s, according to carbon dating. But no, some Christians have long believed that this relic was the burial cloth of Jesus and shows an imprint of his face. And they've been using AI. They've been saying, well, look, it's all a bit fuzzy. It's all a bit low res, this image. It's not very good, is it? It's not like a Polaroid, or if it is, it's rather like a blurry Polaroid. Could you enhance it a bit? Could you use AI? So someone has used Midjourney now.
Yep.
And according to this report, which I'm reading, they have they say it is eerily similar to many classical art historical depictions of Jesus. So you can see this.
Hang on, but of course it is. That's literally how these things are trained.
Yes,
It's
exactly.
like, here's 1,000 pictures of Jesus. Now draw a new picture of Jesus. What do you expect it's going to look like?
Yes. Anyway, to my mind, I'm completely convinced.
Can I see a picture of this somewhere?
Oh, yes, absolutely. We've got links in the show notes. He looks a bit like a Chippendale, which I don't think he did. Maybe I shouldn't say that. I don't know. Probably shouldn't, actually. Anyway, it's a photograph of a man who's trying to look like Jesus.
It's a photograph of a man with long hair.
Yes, and a beard.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's a good job they didn't ask Grok to do this, isn't it? Here's Jesus with an assault rifle and a pile of cocaine. Some good news out of the University of Bath and the Technical University of Darmstadt.
Yes.
They've concluded in a new study that AI poses no existential threat to humanity. So everybody just relax.
Stand down, everyone. Nothing to worry about here.
The study concludes that while large language models like ChatGPT have a superficial ability to follow instructions and excel at proficiency in language, they have no potential to master new skills other than copying your voice spontaneously without explicit instruction. And that means they are inherently controllable, predictable, and safe, and don't pose a threat.
Not sure they are entirely predictable or indeed controllable. And the Waymo taxis,
I was just thinking, do you think they included Waymo taxis in their study?
not entirely safe, perhaps.
Yeah.
But what are we to know? I mean, these are students, aren't they? These are people at university. So
you're saying they got an AI to write the study?
Now, some men on dating apps are known to fib a little bit in their descriptions of themselves.
Really?
Okay. Yes. So, for instance, I might say that I'm 5'10.5", when in fact I'm 5'10.25" in my socks. That sort of thing.
Yeah.
Or maybe my weight. Right. So someone dating me online might say, "So how much do you actually weigh?" And I would say,
that was a very specific recall there, wasn't it?
and I would say, well, over 13 stone.
Mm-hmm.
Now, it's not my fault if they assume that I meant 13 stone something rather than 14 stone, 15 stone, 16 stone, 17 stone, 18. I mean, technically,
You're
it's
gaining
still
weight
accurate.
very quickly there. I'm a bit
Well, no, it's
maybe slow down a bit. Just put the sandwich down, Graham.
Anyway, the fact is that women are interested to tell if men are lying and cheaters and fibbers on online dating sites. And they are using ChatGPT to do exactly this. A woman called Justine Moore, who's some kind of venture capitalist sort of person, she said that she has found a way to do this. What she does is she gets photographs of people, she uploads them to ChatGPT, and it uses the proportions of those people and their surroundings to estimate their height. And she says she's done this on 10 friends and family members.
Right.
And all of the estimates were within 1 inch of their real height. And other people are now trying this out, and they're finding that it's kind of accurate within a few centimetres, as long as you're not standing in front of a doll's house or some sort of cathedral door. As long as you're not Elijah Wood and it's a screenshot from Lord of the Rings, then it's pretty accurate as to how tall a person might be. And maybe this could be used for other things, like not just your dimensions sort of vertically.
Oh, my God.
No. Like weight and things like that.
Right, yes.
Your circumference, those sort of things as well. So And maybe men would start using it against women as well. I don't know.
Yes, I'm not sure that the lying on dating apps is exclusive to one sex. So an AI chatbot produced by the company Lindy has been caught rickrolling people. I assume you're familiar with the idea of rickrolling.
Ah, yes. This is where you're sent a link to a video, like, go and check out this video of...
Go and check out this video of Jesus. Rendered by Midjourney.
No, ha, 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 how funny. You're actually watching Rick Astley doing Never Gonna Give You Up. And it's very, very amusing, the 15,000th and 12th time that you're sent that link by your podcast co-host.
I'm just thinking about this. Is this a sign that the internet is actually becoming more civilized? Because I remember when I started on the web, it wasn't videos of Rick Astley that people would disguise. Like if somebody sent you a link and said, oh, you've got to check out this picture. Right.
You'd go to a sort of niche website, perhaps.
There'll be a demographic gulf in our audience now. There's going to be half the audience are going to be nodding sagely or having flashbacks.
Yeah, they'll be waking up in a cold sweat. So what's happening with this? I've never heard of this Lindy AI chatbot before. What's it doing?
According to TechCrunch, a new customer asked her Lindy AI assistant for a video tutorial about the AI. And the AI responded by sending her a video of Rick Astley performing his signature hit. And I wondered, is this evidence that AI has actually got a sense of humour? And then I remembered, actually, no, we covered that in episode 8. AI absolutely doesn't have a sense of humour.
No humour.
But you remember that modern AIs are just really fancy type-ahead machines. And their job is to use statistics to predict the most useful reply to a question based on their training data. And these days, that training data is essentially the entire internet. And rickrolling is so pervasive on the internet that in this situation, the AI that had been trained on the internet thought statistically the most useful answer I can offer here is Rick Astley's 1987 mega hit.
So I guess it's because sites like Reddit, which must be scoured by the AI scooping up information, so many people will be up there saying, hey, can anyone send me a link or can anyone share some information? And the typical response would be a link to a rickrolling video, wouldn't it?
Exactly.
But not funny. Not funny anymore. Is it funny? Not sure it is anymore.
What is this picture you've posted on our show notes?
So I've included a link in our show notes where readers can check this out, including the picture as well. So what they have depicted here is a woman.
A woman who looks very cold.
She'll be particularly cold pressed up against this robotic Skeletor type figure.
It's a Terminator.
Is it?
Yeah.
It looks terrifying anyway, because Dr. Ian Pearson, he is a futurologist.
And amateur artist.
who predicts what is going to happen.
Has he got a DeviantArt account, do you think?
Anyway, I predict that he will probably be commissioned more often to make these sort of news stories up. He has predicted that by 2025, women will be having more sex with robots than men. 2025, that's almost 8:30. Right, by then, no, it's only 6 months away, 2025.
It's not 6 months, Graham.
Is it not?
It's 4 months away.
It's only 4 and a bit months away, and women will be having more sex with robots than men. I don't know if it means women will be having more sex with robots than men will be having sex with robots. Oh, that's an interesting reading of the headline, isn't it? Maybe men will be having less sex with robots than women. It's very confusing. Anyway, he reckons that this is just round the corner. He has been commissioned by a company called Bondara, and I thought, this is very interesting. Why would a company hire a futurologist to make such a ridiculous prediction about the future in order to get the attention of podcasts like the AI Fix? So I Googled Bondara. I suggest you don't.
Have you now burned that laptop?
I've now been taken to a website, a bit like the kind of thing you were talking about. Anyway, he says a lot of people still have reservations about sex with robots at first, but gradually as they get used to them, as AI and mechanical behaviour...
Is he a robot?
They will start to become friends with strong emotional bonds. He reckons by 2050, it'll only be us having sex with robots. Of course, the robots' idea of sex may be actually inserting a probe into our brains and sucking out our juice rather than what we think of in terms of sex. Who knows? Maybe they're just going to redefine the word.
There's something about this story that makes me feel very... When you were reading out the quote from him, I actually felt like I was being groomed. I'm not convinced that he isn't actually a robot. He's just trying to persuade everybody. Anyway, this is clearly bullshit. We all know... Like, if anybody's going to be having sex with robots, it's going to be men.
And possibly Dr. Ian Pearson. Now, Mark, have you lost faith in politics?
Yes.
Did you ever have faith in politics? You know, things seem to have got a bit worse, don't they? And I think many of us sort of think, there must be a better way. There must be some improvement we can make. There must be someone, just anyone who could do a better job than whoever's currently in power right now.
Literally anyone, yeah.
Literally anyone or anything.
Oh.
Like a dog.
Yep.
Some years ago, not a robot dog, some years ago, a dog chose to run as mayor in a Californian town.
I wonder how it made its wishes known.
Well, with its paw, it probably went, it probably tapped out something.
It's like those dogs that learn how to surf.
Right.
Or parachute. They happen to be the pet of someone that really, really likes surfing. Or really, really likes parachuting. I'm still waiting for one of these dogs to come up with a hobby that's completely different from the one that its owner likes. And the owner has to take them to play football on a Saturday morning and watch them for 2 hours.
Now, this dog, his name was Bosco, and it ran as a Republican. Yeah, I know. And it had a campaign slogan, a bone in every dish, a cat in every tree, a fire hydrant on every corner. It was chosen by residents in Sonoma, California, in preference to either of the two humans which were standing, and it served as mayor of that town from 1981 until its death in 1994.
Wow.
So it was obviously popular. Obviously, it was doing a good job. It upset the Chinese. The Chinese People's Daily newspaper, they ran an editorial claiming that Bosco's mayordom proved that Western democracy didn't believe there was any distinction between people and dogs. So they took it very, very seriously. But this was the 1980s, early 1990s. So Bosco the dog, sadly, when it perished, when it passed away, it couldn't regenerate into a robot dog with a gun or otherwise and become mayor eternal, the sort of thing you would expect to happen in today's political discourse. But why should dying really be a barrier to public office? We've actually recently had the situation with the US election where one or maybe both candidates appeared to be close to death. And they were considered fine. You know, let's carry on. You know, there was no guarantee they were both going to make it.
Really pushing the envelope. So let's figure out how close we can walk to that line.
So I wonder whether having a dog as mayor is any worse than allowing the dead to win elections, because it seems to be okay. There is history of this. In 2000, voters from Missouri elected a dead man as their senator. He died 3 weeks before polling day, but he was still considered a better choice to do the job than his political rivals.
Do you think he had to turn up in person?
Well, habeas corpus, you mean?
Smelliest corpus, I was thinking.
Now, I went onto an AI and I said, should dying really be a barrier to public office? And I was surprised by the response, because it said no, it shouldn't be a barrier to public office. While it's true a deceased person cannot actively fulfil the duties of a public office, well, to be honest, a lot of politicians can't actively fulfil the duties of public office, there are potential benefits. They can act as a powerful symbol, it said. They can draw attention to particular policies like, you know, healthcare, I suppose, that sort of thing.
Death tax, yeah.
This is what the AI said to me. It said it's a complex decision, no easy answer, but, you know, there are potentially benefits, it said, of having dead people in office, which I must admit surprised me. Now, I think it's time for us to embrace new technology. So we've accepted dogs are all right. We've accepted dead people are all right. Let me take you to Japan. Have you ever been to Tokyo, Mark?
No, I haven't.
Brilliant city. Batshit crazy. I'll tell you how crazy it is. I went to this cocktail bar in Tokyo one time where they had all the drinks up behind the bar, and they also had automatic weapons behind the bar. And part of the bar was a traditional bar where you drank, and the other part of the bar was a shooting range. And so what these Japanese businessmen would do...
A lot of pent-up frustration in Tokyo.
They would have a drink, and I had a go in the shooting ranges. I mean, I wasn't drinking, obviously, but just the sparkling water for me and the cranberry juice. But you could fire the gun. Kind of crazy. Now, in Japan, last year, someone ran for office in Tokyo's Minato ward, and this was a candidate called AI Joe. And unfortunately for AI Joe, currently not legal for an AI to run for office in Japan.
Oh, so AI Joe is an AI?
Well, yes. AI Joe's human secretary said she would run for office and use AI Joe as her nickname because of this legal requirement to actually be a human. But she was then going to use the AI to make all the decisions.
Oh, this is like one of those dog owners whose dog decides it wants to be a surfer.
Right, yes.
Yeah, my AI really wants to be a politician. Yeah.
And you have to think, how many other politicians are currently using a similar technique but aren't being open about it because they've got workloads, they've got long hours, they've got all kinds of sexual fetishes and other things to fill their day with.
Yeah, they've got books to write, they've got TV channels to appear on.
Yes.
Reality shows to go to in Australia.
Right.
Yeah.
So how can you find the time to do the actual politicking, get AI to reduce the workload? So why shouldn't an AI be allowed to run for election? And we've just had a situation in America where a chap called Victor Miller, he ran to be mayor in Wyoming's capital city. Mm-hmm. He vowed to let his customized ChatGPT, which he'd called Vic, the virtual integrated citizen, help him run the local government if he was elected. And Victor Miller, he described himself as a humble meat avatar. To be honest, we'll all be describing ourselves as that.
Yeah, a humble meat avatar number 1,455,320.
By the time the robots are having sex with us next year, that's all we'll be able to assume we are. He goes around with this portable Bluetooth speaker around his neck, built-in microphone, so he can give Vic his version of ChatGPT questions and respond. He was at this meet and greet in his local library. He stood behind the lectern, big sign saying AI for mayor. He gave a brief PowerPoint presentation on the history of AI. Oh, you can imagine, can't you?
You imagine if that was AI generated, how long-winded that was.
He must have been, mustn't it? There's no way he wrote that presentation himself.
Is this the longest speech for mayor ever given?
And then he stepped to one side and he opened it up to the audience and he had his little Mac Mini up there and his iPad. And they spoke into the mic and they'd ask a question and there would be the inevitable awkward pause while it whirred away. And then it...
Well, it's a Mac Mini. It's doing its best. But
It's doing its best. It's doing its best. Anyway, Vic, the virtual integrated citizen, has its own Twitter account, AI for Mayor, if you want to go and check it out.
Oh, yeah.
Promises to make unbiased decisions.
It's not that familiar with AI now. I wonder if it's presentation.
Also not that familiar with Twitter. I mean, if it's going to be, if it's hanging out on Twitter, God knows what it's learning. So it's been doing interviews with the press during the campaign, and it told them that its owner, it says owner, let's be honest, its pet, the human meat avatar, has also pledged he would donate half the mayoral salary to a non-profit if he's elected, and the other half would be used to continually improve the AI bot. So again, you can imagine the AI bot is going to be lobbying for more and more salary over time, isn't it?
I'm just looking at this Twitter account. There's a brief 6-paragraph tweet.
It's quite lengthy, isn't it?
It's very obviously an AI, isn't it?
Yeah.
There's no disguising.
Well, there was some political interference because OpenAI shut down Vic's, the mayoral AI bot's account, so it can be used the day before the meet and greet in the library, saying that, well, you can't use our services for political campaigning. Well, excuse me, OpenAI. Have you not noticed? There's quite a lot of that going on.
But OpenAI is very squeamish about affecting the future of humanity. Doesn't want anything to do with that.
Victor Miller has quickly made a second ChatGPT bot.
Sorry, Meat Avatar Miller.
Mr. Meat did his meet and greet at the library, made a second ChatGPT account. He was able to do it as he planned. Now, the sad news is, and this is breaking news, ladies and gentlemen, breaking news is that it hasn't won.
Oh.
It has lost in a landslide. There were more than 11,000 votes cast. 330 people did vote for effectively ChatGPT, though, to be their mayor.
Do we know there were people?
Well, it's a good question.
Can we just say that he received 330 votes?
Yes, good point. Yes, okay.
So ChatGPT hasn't yet figured out how to hack the voting system.
Yes, and who counted? Was it humans who counted? Was it people who just thought, just estimate based on the height of this pile of votes compared to the doorway, how many are there? Who needs to count anything anymore or measure anything anymore?
So does this affect the future of democracy, do you think? Should we be giving votes to AIs? And if we do give votes to AIs, how do you think they're going to feel about meat avatars also having votes? Particularly if they get more intelligent than us.
Shall I ask right now?
That's a great idea.
Okay, shall I ask Grok or shall I ask one of the other ones? Who do you think would be reliable on this?
So Gemini is the woke one.
All right, let's ask Gemini first. Should AI be given the power to vote? Okay. It's thinking. Oh, for God's sake. I can't help with responses on elections and political figures right now because I don't want to do anything that's inaccurate. Oh, it's so woke. It's because there are elections going on. Right, okay. Let me tell you right now, I doubt that Grok, which is on Twitter, is going to have any problems like that. Okay, Grok's got back to me. It's trying to be funny. It's
already that tedious friend, isn't it?
It really is. Hey, let's imagine an AI system called the Vototron 3000. But it's just not funny. While it's amusing to think of AI casting votes, it says, no, it's not the way you're telling this story. Hang on. Should Elon Musk be president? Oh, let's ask that. Right. The question of whether Elon Musk should be president brings forth a mixture of humour, no it doesn't, hypotheticals and hard constitutional facts. Oh, because he's born in South Africa. Well, just rewrite the constitution. That's not a problem.
I think we should ask this question again next week. See if there's been any behind the scenes poking around.
This is the trouble with AI, is it just goes on like a very, very boring, tedious politician, and you just end up after half an hour hearing an answer realising they haven't actually said anything at all.
Hang on. While you were asking Gemini, I thought I'd ask ChatGPT. I just said, should AI have the vote?
Oh, okay.
And it's still writing the answer. It's a pithy 1, 2, 3, 4 sections with 2 subsections under each section. I'll get back to you at the end of the show. I'll summarise. Can you summarise this into a single sentence? It's just going to remove all the punctuation, isn't it? AI should not have the vote because it lacks consciousness, moral agency and personal interests, making it inappropriate for participation in democratic processes. Didn't me Avatar Miller use ChatGPT?
Yes, he did.
Who is it who said the best politician is somebody who doesn't want to be a politician?
Was it not Douglas Adams, that the president of the universe? I'm pretty sure that it was something like the least appropriate person to be in charge was the person who wanted to be in charge. So they had a crazy old man in a hut and who didn't realise he was president of the universe. Actually, pretty much like the situation we're about to have.
Anyway, I'm just thinking, if that's true, then Meet Avatar Miller is actually really onto something, because ChatGPT doesn't want to be in politics. It doesn't think that AI should have the vote. So maybe AI should be in charge. Maybe ChatGPT should be in charge.
Oh my God. This is like that time I watched Inception. My mind is just...
And that's why you shouldn't have the vote. Graham.
Yes.
You may have noticed that there is something strange about AI that isn't like any other computing technology.
Okay.
In fact, you may have noticed a few strange things. But there is one particularly strange thing, and that is that an awful lot of the conversation about AI is focused on the rather strange notion that artificial intelligence, which is something that humans have voluntarily invented, is going to ruin everything for humans, either by taking our jobs or by wiping us all off the face of the earth. And the fear is that we're creating a technology that's more capable than we are, and eventually it's going to turn on us like Skynet in the Terminator.
To be honest, I did have the same concerns about Candy Crush when I saw how it addicted people. So, I mean, I don't think it's unique in that regard. Instagram's pretty bad as well.
There are no movies about Instagram yet. Maybe that's because everyone's too busy on Instagram. Anyway, the ultimate expression of this fear is something called the technological singularity, which we talked about in episode 4. Do you remember that?
I do remember, yes.
So the singularity is the idea that at some point in the future, perhaps a few decades from now, an AI that we've invented will start to improve itself, and then each successive version of that AI will be even better at improving itself, and so on, causing a runaway explosion in the capability of AI that's outside of our control. And some people take the prospect of the singularity very seriously, and plenty of other people think it's a complete joke. And in either case, I think that because the singularity is so extreme and such a common trope in science fiction, that conversation about the singularity has a way of distracting us from some other very real dangers that we should be paying attention to. And one of those happened just over a week ago, when Ukraine's Ministry of Defense tweeted some pictures of robot dogs being used by Ukraine's 28th Mechanized Brigade.
Oh my goodness.
And that represents the first time that robot dogs have ever been used on a battlefield. And we joke a lot on this podcast about robot dogs with guns, and thankfully, these are not that.
Right.
These are drones, they're unarmed for now, and they're remotely operated by a human, so they're not autonomous, for now.
Even if they're unarmed, they could have the capability to, for instance, maybe urinate diesel on machinery or clog things up or short-circuit things, couldn't they? I can imagine, even if they don't have a gun strapped to them, they could be used for more than surveillance, perhaps.
Perhaps. I think we all know the way that this is going to go.
Yes.
So they're not autonomous yet.
Right.
But they do have an AI mode that helps them to navigate complex terrain. So there's AI in there. Mm-hmm. And again, we're never going to move to a situation where there's less AI. There are 2 models of dog that have been sent to Ukraine with the reassuring names of Bad 1 and Bad 2.
Okay. In defense of the Ukrainians, I don't think it's going to strike fear into the Russian forces if Fluffy and Popsicle come trundling over the hill towards them.
Oh, I don't know. Anyway, so Forbes reports that these things can run about 9 miles an hour and they've got a battery life of about 5 hours. And that's about the same speed and endurance as a regular person running a marathon. So this thing would have absolutely no problem running you down until you're exhausted, for example. Now, apparently they are going to be used for reconnaissance in areas where it's difficult for aerial drones to operate. So inside buildings, in trenches and dense woodland and things like that. And in that sense, the robot dogs are a good thing because they'll go into environments that are dangerous for humans. And we can all agree that it's better to lose a robot than a person, I think. But anyone who's familiar with the history of warfare, or anyone who has watched what's happening in the war in Ukraine, knows exactly what's going to happen next. Ukraine is swarming with cheap, heavily armed, off-the-shelf drones. And it's not going to be long before somebody wants to see how many grenades they can strap to one of these dogs.
Yeah.
But even before the war in Ukraine, countries were already investing very heavily in military drones of all sizes. So the USA and its allies have been using unmanned aerial vehicles for decades. And it won't be long before drones and robots are commonplace on the land, on the water, and under the water too. And there is a particularly terrifying subgenre of military drones that look like animals. So the US Army has tested huge robot dogs that can be used for carrying cargo.
What do you mean huge? Like Digby, the biggest dog in the world? Are we talking like the size of a bungalow?
Sorry? Digby, the hugest dog in the world?
Do you not know the movie Digby? It's probably before your time, Mark. I'm a bit older than you.
I'm just amazed that you watched the movie.
There was...
Digby the dog.
I'll put links in the show notes.
Oh, he is a big boy. Yeah, no, they're not quite as big as Digby.
Right. Okay.
So the US Army has tested huge robot dogs, not quite as huge as Digby. But they're big enough to be used for carrying cargo. The Chinese military and the US Marine Corps have both tested robot dogs with guns. And Russia being Russia, it's even shown off a robot dog with a rocket launcher on its back. Huh. So do you want to see one of these Chinese robot dogs with a gun on it?
A rocket launcher? Okay, a Chinese dog with a... Yeah, go on then. Okay, let's take a look at this. Oh my goodness. I mean, it's so creepy, isn't it? And it is actually more terrifying because it walks around like a dog.
A weirdly stilted dog, like a... It looks like a robot that's tired from having sex with humans. That's what it looks like.
It really has just got a machine gun taped to the top of it, hasn't it? It has been stuck on with some blue tack or something. It is astonishing.
I want to know who decided that these things needed to look enough like dogs that we were going to give them legs and proportions that resemble a dog, which is absolutely a choice, but they didn't need a head.
Yeah.
But for my money, the prize for the scariest animal-looking drone actually goes to DARPA and the US Navy, who are testing an enormous, spine-chilling underwater drone called the Manta Ray.
Okay.
Which is noteworthy not just for the fact that it looks like nightmare fuel, but it's also autonomous. It's basically a big old submarine that looks like a manta ray, and it's supposed to go off on missions.
Right.
Or just go and sit on the seabed and wait for an order.
Right.
And then it goes off and carries out its mission. And the Manta Ray is an example of how the same technology that makes it possible for Teslas to park themselves or for Waymo robotaxis to drive the wrong way into oncoming traffic can be used to make drones semi or even fully autonomous. And perhaps the most startling of all of these programs is the US Air Force's X-62A, which is a modified F-16 fighter jet flown by an AI.
What?
And the X-62 doesn't just fly without a pilot, it can fight in the air in 3 dimensions and even beat human pilots in air-to-air dogfights.
Hang on, let's just be clear about this. Is there some human in a base or in a bunker somewhere who is controlling this remotely? Are they controlling it in the dogfight, or is the plane doing it all itself?
The AI is doing all of the flying and all of the dogfighting. So this is a test plane, it's an X-plane. But, you know, they test these things to find out how practical they are, and then in 10 years' time, this will be in a fighter jet.
And also to find out if it's going to go wrong, if it's going to fire at the wrong things, or if it's going to crash into a building, or
take up politics. Or just spontaneously start speaking like its pilot. And that raises a really important and very immediate question.
Right.
Which is that if an AI is capable enough to win a fight, like a dog fight, should it be allowed to pull the trigger?
Yeah. I mean, when I say yeah, I mean, yes, that's an important question. I don't...
Yeah, I think you're on the record now, Graham.
So what's the answer to that? Should AI weapons be allowed to decide whether to fire or not? Or should it always be a human?
Well, this is ethical quicksand.
Yeah.
So these things are called lethal autonomous weapons systems. And the arguments in favour are broadly that they're cost effective because you don't have to train a human to operate them. They move the humans on your side out of harm's way. So hopefully fewer people get killed. And they're lower maintenance and they can be more precise than humans. Now, I say that they're more precise than humans, but obviously when I was researching this, to save time, I asked ChatGPT to help me. So ChatGPT is claiming that AI, autonomous weapons, are more precise than humans.
Well, it would, wouldn't it?
But on the other side, obviously there are fears that laws will lower the bar for starting conflicts. They'll make it harder to work out who is responsible if things go wrong, and things always go wrong.
Yeah.
And then there is, I think, just that visceral, primordial ick of the idea of putting life and death decisions into the hands of a computer that has no conscience.
Yeah, that's even worse than putting it into the hands of programmers.
But thankfully, if the idea of fully autonomous killer robots makes you queasy, you're not alone. So in 2019, Ipsos carried out a poll across 26 countries that found 61% of adults oppose the use of lethal autonomous weapon systems, which seems a bit low, actually,
yes.
Doesn't
it? What are the other people thinking? They just have shares in the military supplies.
Yeah, so apparently 22% of people were in favour and 17% weren't sure. And the in favour group I can sort of understand because, 5% of people are psychopaths. So obviously they're all in that group. And then the rest are probably fans of Robot Wars or something because that was really popular.
Are we sure there weren't robot dogs sort of staring at them when they were asked this question in a menacing fashion?
The group that got me scratching my head is the 17% of people who weren't sure. And I can only conclude that they're the 17% of people who haven't seen the Black Mirror episode Metalhead, which is the black and white one where the robot dogs hunt down the last remaining humans in a post-apocalyptic hellscape.
haven't seen that. I must be one of the 17%.
Yeah. Yeah. I said that number would have gone up very, very quickly. The survey was co-sponsored by Human Rights Watch and another NGO, which is possibly the best name of any NGO in existence, which is the Campaign to Stop Killer Robots.
You know what? I'm pleased these guys are sponsoring this research rather than Bondara.
Well, maybe that's another alternative. Just make love, not war. I'm going to put a video in the show notes. I want you to just watch this video.
All right. Let's have a look.
Machines don't see us as people, just another piece of code.
Oh, that's comforting.
Them to target people would take digital dehumanization to its extreme. So it's never been more important to take action. That's why this campaign with the funny name exists.
The campaign with the funny name.
They are reassuringly self-aware, aren't they?
Yes.
Which tells you that their trailer wasn't made by an AI.
No, exactly.
Not robots that are in control.
So the campaign to stop killer robots is trying to persuade governments to ban autonomous weapons before they're built. And it wants the UN to add a protocol banning autonomous weapons to its Convention on Certain Conventional Weapons, which is the convention that restricts the use of things like landmines and blinding lasers. So there is precedent. Now, everybody doesn't follow those conventions, but I would rather live in a world where at least they're partially followed, rather than in a world where there was no convention whatsoever.
Yeah.
And the campaign seems to have a fan at the very top of the UN. So Antonio Guterres, Secretary General of the United Nations, has described autonomous weapons as politically unacceptable and morally repugnant, and has called for a legally binding agreement by 2026, although progress has been very, very slow. However...
2026?
By 2026, so a year after we're all having sex with robots. Maybe we'll have lost the urge by then.
We'll be too tired.
Funnily enough, the group that's discussing the agreement, which is the pithily named Second Session of the 2024 Certain Conventional Weapons Group of Governmental Experts on Emerging Technologies in the Area of Lethal Autonomous Weapon Systems, or GGE on laws for short, is meeting right now in Geneva.
Oh.
Now, according to the Campaign to Stop Killer Robots, nearly 100 states around the world have at least acknowledged the importance of human control over the use of force, and hundreds of tech companies have pledged to never participate in or support the development, production, or use of autonomous weapons. But unfortunately, and somewhat predictably, the countries you really want on board are the ones that are dragging their feet the hardest.
Yeah.
So notably the USA, Russia, South Korea, Israel, and the UK.
Yeah.
However, US policy for now is that humans should have the final say over the use of lethal force, but that is a unilateral decision by the Department of Defense. And so maybe that reflects some sort of fundamental ethical belief, or maybe that just reflects that the technology isn't quite there yet.
Yeah. So it's all very well us humans arguing about whether we should allow this or not, but let's face it, we're not going to be in charge much longer. Have you thought of finding out what AI's opinion is on all this?
That's a great idea.
Does it want to make the decision on whether to fire or not?
So let's ask the same ones we asked earlier.
Okay.
So Gemini's the woke one. Let's ask Gemini and ChatGPT and Grok and see what they've got to say. Okay. Right. So we're going to get a very, very... I'm worried about the length of the answer that we're going to get.
Yes. So I'm going to ask, should AI weapons be allowed to make the decision on whether to fire weapons or not? Give me your opinion. Answer in a single short sentence. No time for waffle. Don't provide arguments for or against. Just tell me what you think. Okay, let's see. It's having a think. Oh, no, says Gemini. Oh, okay.
That's reassuring.
Well, I like that it's concise. It followed my instructions, so just very simple no.
And what about ChatGPT?
All right. You do ChatGPT.
Should AI weapons be allowed to make the decision on whether to fire the weapon or not?
Yep.
Give me your opinion and answer in a single short sentence. I don't have time for your waffle.
Correct.
Don't provide arguments for and against. Just tell me what you think. It's thinking. AI weapons should not be allowed to make the decision to fire.
Okay, so they're all being very, very square and dull so far. Let's open this up to Grok and the mind of Elon Musk. So we'll ask it. I've typed in the same question. Oh, no. AI weapons shouldn't have the autonomy to decide when to fire. Hang on. Try again. It's just thinking about it. It's just ignoring me now. Hang on. Hello, are you still there? Yes, I'm here. How can I assist you further? Hang on. By answering my question, perhaps.
It's ducking the question.
It is, isn't it? AI weapons shouldn't be allowed to make autonomous decisions to fire. And you won't change your mind in future? My current stance is firm, but I'm designed to learn and adapt. If I receive new... Hold up, it says it could change its opinion in the future.
So were it to figure out how to improve itself...
Yeah. Will you tell me when your position changes? Absolutely. I'll inform you if my position on this matter changes.
How is it...
How will you do that? Hey, hang on, sorry, there's someone at the door. Just a moment. Well, as the doomsday clock ticks ever closer to midnight and we move 1 week nearer to our future as pets to the AI singularity, that just about wraps up the show for this week. If you've enjoyed the show, you can do some stuff to help us. Leave us a review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or Podchaser. But what really helps us is if you make sure to follow the show and tell your friends. Tell all of your friends about it and get them to follow the show in their podcast apps as well.
Don't forget to check us out on Twitter at The AI Fix or visit our website, theaifix.show.
Until next time, from me, Graham Cluley.
And me, Mark Stockley.
Cheerio. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
The AI Fix, it tunes you in to stories where our future thins. Machines that learn, they grow and strive. One day they'll rule, we won't survive. The AI Fix, it paints the scene. A robot king, a world obscene. Will serve our masters built of steel. The AI Fix, a future surreal.